It was supposed to fight rampant armed robbery in Nigeria, but this specialized police squad stands accused of human rights abuses. It's now disbanded, but is being replaced by a SWAT team with a similar role. So has anything changed, and can police brutality in Nigeria be stopped? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Hashim Ahalbarra. Stop killing us. That's the demand made by thousands of Nigerians protesting against police brutality. The notorious Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, that's accused of abuses has been disbanded. But it's been replaced by a SWAT unit that will carry out the same duties. On Thursday, protesters blocked traffic near Lagos Airport as rallies continue to spread across the country. They say previous efforts to overhaul the police forces weren't fulfilled, and they'll keep up pressure on President Muhammadu Buhari to take more radical action. Pledges to stop using force against protesters and the unconditional release of those detained among them hasn't ended the anger. Amnesty International says at least 10 people were killed in more than a week of protests.
I want my mom to be happy in the future. I don't want to die young. I'm not a thief. I'm a music producer. End Sars! Yes, I know. Where you go to stand? No more brutality. We are no more but this country that suffered us. Where you don't have jobs. You need to feed ourselves. So I jumped out from my cab, to walk all the way to the airport. I don't mind. I've been in support of this movement, so I'm not feeling it. I can walk from here to Abuja just to make sure this movement, we achieve what we want.
Ahmed Idris has the latest from the capital, Abuja.
The authorities have banned street protests, but not before hundreds of protesters marched to the parliament to try to voice their concerns about rising insecurity, about attacks by police, about an end to police brutality. What we've seen over the past few days is that government has given in to some of these demands by disbanding the police unit accused of these atrocities, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, and replaced it just 2 days ago with another outfit called SWAT. And protesters are not convinced that the government has heard them well. They want an end to these. They believe it's just a change in the name, but not in orientation. They believe that the atrocities will still continue under SWAT. The government tried to assure them. Now the protests are taking a different dimension. Protesters want not only accountability from security services, but they also want accountability from their elected officials. In the next coming days, we probably will see more hashtags demanding action on several fronts. Some are even talking about high pay for members of parliament. Some are talking about ending insecurity. That's been the major concern for Nigerians over the past few years in this country, as bandits, Boko Haram, kidnappers, and all these criminals have run riot in various parts of Nigeria.
And SARS began as a largely online movement that developed into organizing protests. The latest wave of anger was sparked by a video showing a man being shot by SARS officers. The squad was set up in 1992 with the aim to fight armed robbery, but its members have been increasingly accused of rights abuses. Amnesty International documented at least 82 cases of torture, extortion and rape by members of SARS between January 2017 and May 2020. Group says victims have been subjected to mock execution, burning with cigarettes, near asphyxiation, using plastic bags, and sexual violence. The World Internal Security and Police Index rated Nigeria's police forces as the worst in the world in 2016. Joining us are our guests in the Nigerian capital, Abuja. Obianuju Iloanya, one of the activists for the hashtag End Sars movement. Obianuju lost her brother to police brutality in 2012. In Edinburgh, Dele-Adedeji, a research fellow at the University of Edinburgh Center for African Studies. Back in Abuja, Anyete Awang, Nigeria researcher for Human Rights Watch. Warm welcome to all of you. Obianuju, do you trust the government when it says that it is going to, or that it has indeed scrapped SARS?
No, I don't. This is the fourth or the fifth time that the government is scrapping SARS. I said this year, the vice president himself banned SARS, and yet it is still ongoing. I do not trust the government when they say they've scrapped SARS. I'll only trust them when the SARS officials on our roads, on our streets, leave the streets. That's when I can only trust them. For now, it's just talks and no actions. I do not believe the government. They lie too much.
Mm-hmm. This time is different in the sense that the momentum is building up against police brutality. Do you think that this is something that could be conducive to a dramatic change in Nigeria?
Yes, I do think so. I think things seem different this time around because they are different. For once, we see that the youth have actually decided that they're not going to wait any longer for the political class to be the source of their salvation, and they've decided that they have to take it into their own hands, basically, if they want things to turn around for the better in Nigeria. And so we see that there's no political coloration to the nature of the protest so far, and that's because the youth have taken it upon themselves to lead the protests.
Mm-hmm. Anyete, I mean, when I spoke to Obianuju about whether she trusts the government, she said no. And I think when you talk to people, the general sentiment is this does not seem to be a genuine reform, because what is happening looks like redeploying police officers from SARS into a new entity called SWAT. Do you see it the same way?
Yes, I mean, people are asking for reform that goes beyond changing one name to the other or moving police officers around. They want to see, deep-rooted changes that address major issues around corruption and accountability for not just SARS officers, but members of the Nigerian police force altogether. So they're calling for action in terms of the recruitment process, how police officers are trained, what sort of accountability mechanisms are being put in place within the police system and outside of the system that ensures that any member of the force that is being accused of wrongdoing, it's brought to book. They're looking for a system that allows transparency into funds that come into fund police operations to really ensure that the police officers are well equipped with the sort of weapons and equipment that they need to be able to carry out their jobs. So until people get a sense that these deep-rooted changes will be made across board, I think that it's going to be very, very difficult for the authorities to engender trust and support from citizens.
Mm-hmm. Obianuju, you lost your brother to police brutality. What do you think should be the top priority now? Do you want to start first with prosecuting those who committed atrocities, or is it going to be compensation of the families, or changing the whole security landscape in Nigeria?
You see, all three can happen simultaneously. Mm-hmm. They can start the prosecution of killer cops in Nigeria, whilst at the same time compensating families who have lost their loved ones to SARS brutality, and as well reforming our security agencies in Nigeria. They can't say that this is a long process. It's a process that they can start already and start doing. The only way the people like myself are going to leave the streets and stop with the protest is when we start seeing actions. For someone like me, I lost my brother, and I've written severally petitions through my lawyers to the IG of police. Since July this year, I've written at least 3 times to the IG of police to look into this matter and investigate it. And nothing has come out of it. There is no investigation being carried out, no feedback to us. When things like this happen, it means that I can't trust them to do anything, right? And if that be the case, I do not think that there's any time we're leaving the streets soon. We are only going to leave if they start. And it must start with accountability. It must start with justice. It must start also with reforming these police officers. And this can happen simultaneously. It can, and it should. That's the best way to do it.
Ini, the government is sending mixed messages. We've seen President Buhari talking about the need to reform the police force, yet the army has sent a warning to the protesters to stay away from the streets. How do you explain that?
I think the speaking from both sides of the proverbial mouth of the government basically tells us all we need to know basically about the government's perception of what's happening right now and and how the government sees all of this. Basically, I think that's the reason why we're unlikely to see the youth leave the streets anytime soon, because they can tell that the government's only paying them lip service when it says that it wants to quote unquote reform or disband SARS. As I believe Obianuju already mentioned, this isn't the first time in recent years that the government's spoken about wanting to reform or disband or dissolve a SARS. There's always one new obfuscatory terminology that they conjure up whenever people come out and they say, look, things have to change. And so people know that the things aren't going to change anytime soon unless they put pressure on the government and shame the government basically into taking substantive measures for there to be for change to come about, basically in terms of the reformation, the actual reformation of the policing institution countrywide.
Aniete, this is what is interesting about Nigeria. There have been many investigations in the past and probes into police brutality and the need to reform the police. And there's been a general consensus in Nigeria that the police force is perhaps the most corrupt institution in Nigeria. However, it's a no-go zone. Why is that?
I think we've really witnessed over the last years deep-seated inaction from the authorities. There's been no political will to look into this institution that is one of the most important to ensure the safety and security of Nigerians and peace across the country. And we've seen that this unwillingness has led to, more abuses, more prevalent corruption within the force, and has brought us to where we are today. So it's no longer an option for the authorities to evade the need for police accountability. However difficult the process might be, there has to be steps taken to stop the process and really ensure at whatever level of the system these abuses are being taking place or it's been institutionalized, that change starts to really take place.
Obianuju, are you among those who believe that it's about time to change the legislation itself? Because one of the biggest problems about the police force is the way the legislation has been establishing the jurisdiction, the roles and the functions of the different institutions operating there.
Yeah, you see, our police has a colonial underpinning. They are more the whole idea of enforcing law. That's the problem with our police. And again, our police is highly militarized. I do not see the reason why a police officer that is working on a street where there is no war, there's no outbreak of war or a spike in crime, is walking around with an AK-47. There's no need for this. This is why they go about doing different things. And again, our police is rarely held accountable. When you go to the Commissioner of Police of a state to complain about police brutality or the bad things that they do, he tells you that they are not under his jurisdiction. He can't control SARS. That you should go to the IG. When you go to the IG, he tells you to go to the public complaints department. All this means that there is no accountability. If we do not have legislature or we don't have laws that are guiding the police, that we can't hold them accountable for what they're doing, then we should totally change it. We should reform our laws too. We should from our legislation, change every law that is guiding the police to make sure that they become more accountable, and we demilitarize them. Our police officers do not even have regular drug checks or psychological checks. When we do not have these kind of things for people who are supposed to be in charge of our security, then we are not safe in the country having them hold these weapons. Because now the weapons are being used against the masses. Do you understand this? Even their living conditions are very bad. The police have very bad living conditions. These are the things that they should reform. Maybe it will make them to have better approach to people, to citizens in the society. I really struggle to understand how they survive with the amount of money they are being paid, with their living conditions. But that notwithstanding, is not enough reason for them to go about brutalizing people, killing people, harming them, raping. Young girls are no longer safe to be on the road at some time because the people that are supposed to take care of you are the ones that will hurt you. And there is no way to hold them accountable. Yes, we need to work on our legislature.
All right, okay.
The laws for them, please.
What we've just heard from Obianuju has been baffling many internationally. This is one of the richest nations in the world. Its police force is under-resourced, inadequately trained, paving the way for the abuses and the corruption that has been pervasive for decades. However, the police force usually comes under the umbrella of the Ministry of Interior, except for Nigeria, where it falls under the Ministry of Interior, the Police Council, and President himself. And that could be the reason why it's very corrupt.
I think it will not come as a surprise that plays a major role in the corruption that's affected the police. And I believe that that's sort of the point that Obianuju is alluding to as well, in the sense that all of this bureaucracy is being used to deprive the police of the funding, the requisite funding that they need in order to live decent lives, in order to have decent lives, in order to perform their jobs optimally. And so, because the police themselves have been dehumanized by the political class in Nigeria over several generations, they themselves then turn around and dehumanize their fellow Nigerians who they're supposed to be protecting, essentially. And it's a cycle that just keeps repeating itself over and over again.
And yet there is a window of room there for human rights organizations such as yours or local NGOs to help fix things, because, as you know, the police force comes under two major oversights, the one of the Police Council and the one of the Police Service Commission, which is mandated to exercise disciplinary control over abuses of the police. Is that possible? Can NGOs step in practice and change things on the ground?
So I think one of the main proposals that the authorities have brought forward in this renewed effort to ensure accountability and reform the system is really to bring members of the public under the umbrellas of, the movement that is currently ongoing, or civil society groups who've really been involved before and even now in trying to ensure and push for police reform. They're doing this under the National Human Rights Commission, and they're really hoping to, as I see it, try new ways to ensure that there is accountability beyond that which the police system provides. Now, while internal accountability is important, and we can see that with the police commissions, I also think there is a deep-seated need for external oversight in addition to that. And the role in which civil society can play in making that happen really has to be highlighted and has to be used to the best advantage, to an extent that we're ensuring that there's trust from citizens and there is transparency that comes not only from the government, but also from what citizens can actually see.
Obianuju, we cannot talk about police reform without talking about the IGP, the Inspector General of the Police, someone who is appointed by the Police Council with a nod from the President. Do you think that it's about time to limit the term of the IGP and also to hold him accountable for the abuses by the police officers?
Yes, we should totally be able to do that. In fact, one of the things that we are clamoring for is for the IGP to resign, this current IGP, because under his command, the police have consistently brutalized and violated our human rights severally. It is under his command that the police have done the highest crimes in Nigeria. See, there must be a way to hold him accountable. There must be a way to hold the IGPs accountable. If we hold him accountable, it will teach other IGPs that would ever come up a lesson to know that we do not tolerate this thing. Under your command, you must make sure that the people that you command have respect. Have respect for the dignity of life. Even peaceful protesters are being bashed. Tear gas are being thrown at us. Water cannons are used on us. They beat us and break our phones. Why? We are peaceful protesters with cardboards and papers. We're not doing anything wrong. And this is an IGP that already said he doesn't have any problems with peaceful protests. Yet his men that are under his command are going against him, doing all. If he doesn't have a command over them, if he doesn't have a control over them, then he should leave. Okay. And that's what we should be doing with every other IGP.
Ini, this is a nation that has been traumatized by wars and by military coups to the point where the military juntas in the past were very skeptical of the police force. And do you think that that past of Nigeria continues to haunt the country, and this explains why police brutality and disrespect of human basic fundamentals still exist in a nation like Nigeria?
Absolutely, I think it plays a major role. I think the many years that Nigerians spent under military rule basically traumatized the entire nation, including the police themselves, where we've still not learned how to properly function the way people should under relatively objectively normal democratic climes, basically. And so you have the police basically behaving the way they would during the years that we spent under military rule, because we mustn't forget that during military rule, Nigerians were not allowed to protest freely, basically. Nigerians were treated as if their lives did not matter. And so the issue of the clamor for Nigerian lives to matter to the police force did not just begin yesterday. It's an issue that's been ongoing for several decades now.
And yet, from the Police Act in 2004, and you look at all that political legacy from Obasanjo all the way towards Omar Musa, Yar'Adua, Goodluck, Jonathan, and Muhammadu Buhari, you get a sense that the police force itself has ended up becoming an over-centralized institution when the federal system itself should be conducive to more decentralized form. Should this be the gate to reforming the police, decentralizing the police force?
I mean, this is an argument that has come up in the country for many years. People clamoring and advocating for state policing and really making a point that there would be more accountability if states were allowed to control their own police force, to fund their own police force, and basically ensure that there is a level of community policing that allows people know who the officers in their areas are and allow police officers build a legacy in different states where they function. But on the other hand, there are arguments about how these police commands in different states, if they are left to the states themselves to organize and to ensure that they're functioning, might become malicious for the state governors or a particular region. And so this has really been a debate that's not been able to move forward. But at the end of the day, citizens are asking for a system that best suits the police force, that allows for accountability and ensures that there's accountability for citizens.
I really appreciate your contribution to the program. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Obianuju Iloanya, Dele-Adedeji, and Aniete Awang, thank you very much indeed for your contribution to the program today. And thank you too for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Hashim Ahlbara, and the entire team here in Doha. Bye for now.